All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I'm back, and I've got a couple interesting stories for you guys today. So the first story is about Phil Heath. It's been a while since we've had a Phil Heath Olympia story on this channel. So there was a French YouTuber named Lucas Jafface, which I'm sure I probably butchered that last name, but he's a French YouTuber, and he put up a video where he met Phil Heath apparently at the Body Power Expo. And the whole video is in French, but a bunch of people sent it to me, translating it for me. And essentially the rough translation of this video says, essentially this guy asked Phil if he's planning on competing in the 2019 Olympia. And Phil's response was essentially something to the effect of, he plans on doing just an 8-week prep for the Olympia. I guess seeing how he looks at the end of that 8-week prep and deciding whether or not he's going to compete in the Olympia based on how he's looking at the end of that short prep. And also, according to this YouTuber and according to the translation, Phil also says at the end of that 8 weeks, if he does decide he won't be competing at the 2019 Olympia, he might not ever compete at the Olympia again. So this is really interesting news to me because really it's been hard to tell if Phil's going to compete or not because we've seen multiple different reports of yes, he is, no, he's not. He's going to take time off to recover and really focus on coming back in 2020. Fully healed from his surgery and maybe bringing a completely different package to the Olympia stage. Then on the other hand, people are saying, well, the Olympia is wide open this year and Phil needs to come back and reclaim his title. And Phil has said some things on Instagram that kind of suggest that he might want to come back and compete in 2019 and just go for it. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly where Phil stands on competing again in 2019. Now, personally, my feeling on it is this. I would love to see Phil come back to the 2019 Olympia and battle to reclaim his title. I think that would make the Olympia much more interesting. It would give us much more to talk about, and it would just be cool to see. But at the same time, I don't want Phil to come back too soon and not be fully recovered from his surgery and not come back at 100% and then lose the Olympia again or take second at the Olympia again or not win and then be discouraged enough to never come back. So if he needs more time and needs to wait until 2020, I think that's fine. I think he should take as much time as he needs to recover and come back at 100% and come back when he feels like he's really good enough to reclaim that title rather than coming back soon just because he feels like he needs to. And I actually think if what this YouTuber said is true, I think that's a smart idea. I think Phil doing kind of a mini prep for the Olympia and seeing how he looks, being ready for the Olympia if he needs to be ready, but doing that mini prep, seeing how he looks, and then deciding whether or not he's going to compete, I think is the way to do it rather than just saying, okay, I'm not going to compete, here at 6 months out. Because at the end of the day, nobody knows Phil's body like Phil knows it, and nobody knows whether Phil's going to be ready or not better than Phil. But on the other hand, if at the end of that 8 weeks, he doesn't decide he's going to compete, I don't want Phil to decide he's never going to do the Olympia again. I would like to see Phil come back. Again, I don't dislike Phil Heath. I love to see Phil at the Olympia. I love to talk about Phil at the Olympia. It gives us all something interesting to talk about. This is what this whole thing is about, is having interesting conversations, having an entertaining Olympia, having controversies, having rivalries, having these battles on stage. And I think Phil Heath is better than anybody at these controversies and rivalries and giving us something to talk about. And Phil has said before, he's kind of accepted the role as the bad guy or the heel in bodybuilding. He's kind of taken on that role, and it does make things more interesting. Because at the end of the day, man, I'm just a fan of bodybuilding, just like most of you guys watching this are. And at the end of the day, Phil Heath coming back and competing at the Olympia is good for bodybuilding. So I want to see it happen. And again, at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say we're not going to see Kai Greene at the Olympia. We might not see Big Ramy there, which is the next story that I'm going to get to. And the fact that we might not see Phil Heath there either, we're talking about the three essentially biggest names in bodybuilding, aside from Sean Roden, that aren't going to be at the Olympia. It's going to take away from the Olympia experience. But let's get into this next story about Big Ramy here. So as most of you know by now, Big Ramy put up a post on Instagram basically responding to the claims that his shoulder injury would be preventing him from competing in Tampa and also preventing him from competing at the Olympia. And Big Ramy kind of suggested that the shoulder thing wasn't that big of a deal and that he would still be trying to get to the Olympia in 2019. Now, I got an interesting DM today essentially saying that Big Ramy will still be competing in Tampa and will still be trying to compete at the Olympia. So let me read you guys that message here. I think it's a pretty credible message. I'm going to crop out the guy's name because I don't know if he wants this kind of exposure. But he says, "Hey, Nick, big fan of you right here. I have some big news for you regarding Big Ramy. Honey Pink, who is a close friend of Ramy and a YouTuber, had an Instagram live yesterday saying that he spoke with Ramy about the issue. He said that Ramy has no idea where Dave Palumbo got his information regarding the shoulder injury and him not doing the Olympia. He says Big Ramy has been suffering a chronic shoulder injury for a few years now and has been training through it for years. And he says, in conclusion, Big Ramy will be competing as planned at the Tampa most likely, and will still try to qualify for the Olympia as planned. Now, this matches up with what Big Ramy was posting on his Instagram, basically saying that the shoulder's not an issue, he's still trying to get to the Olympia. So I think this was a pretty credible message. And I do think now there is a possibility that maybe the information we got was wrong. Maybe the information from Generation Iron, RX Muscle, and all these rumors that we've seen circulate, maybe they're just wrong and Big Ramy is still planning on competing. And I feel pretty much the same way about Big Ramy as I feel about Phil Heath competing at the Olympia. I mean, at the end of the day, Big Ramy is probably one of the biggest bodybuilders of all time, certainly the biggest bodybuilder of modern times, and really one of the biggest draws to the Olympia weekend. And I said this in one of my last videos, of all the bodybuilders that people are talking about going into the Olympia weekend, one of the bodybuilders that people are talking about more than anybody, almost even more than Phil Heath, is always Big Ramy, because it's always a question of, is he going to come in even bigger, or is he going to come in shredded but still big? In either of those cases, whether he does well or not, people want to see it. If Big Ramy's going to come in 10, 15, 20 pounds bigger, even if he's out of shape, people want to see a 330-pound bodybuilder on stage. If Big Ramy comes in shredded at 290 pounds, people are still going to be amazed, because here's a shredded guy that weighs almost 300 pounds. What the hell's going on here? So Ramy, if you're watching this, I'm a fan. I would love to see you compete at the 2019 Olympia. So if you're on the fence about it and still trying to decide what to do, I think myself and a lot of other people would really like to see you compete at the 2019 Olympia weekend. All right, now next up in the news, we are approximately 5 days out from what is essentially the third biggest show in bodybuilding. That is the 2019 IFBB New York Pro, and we now have the official competitor list for that competition that's happening this weekend in 5 days. So I want to go ahead and share that competitor list with you guys right here. We've got Tim Budashim, we've got Mark Datrashi, we've got Chris D. Domenico, Camilo Diaz-Garzon, you've got James Hollingshead, Andrew Hudson, Joseph Mackey, Justin Mackey, Juan Morel, Derek Upshaw, Jojo Natifero, Yassine Quadiri, Cesar Estella, Justin Luis Rodriguez, Milan Sadiq, Robin Strand, Josh Wade, Akeem Williams, and Rolly Winkler's younger brother, Quincy Winkler. So I think some of the biggest names to be looking out for here are going to be Juan Morel, Justin Luis Rodriguez, Akeem Williams, Josh Wade possibly, and then some lesser-known guys in this lineup that I think might actually be threats here, James Hollingshead and also Milan Sadiq. So to be honest with you guys, the New York Pro is one of my favorite shows of the year because so many guys compete here, because essentially it's open to any IFBB Pro. I mean, we have about 20 competitors here, so there's always the opportunity for some maybe lesser-known guy to crack the top six and make a name for themselves at the New York Pro. And it's a really exciting show, and they've got all the divisions here. They've got 212, they've got men's physique, they've got classic physique. Classic physique last year was a really big deal at the New York Pro. Everybody was talking about it. And this year in the classic physique division, it looks like they've got like well over 30 competitors in pro classic physique. That's going to be an insanely deep lineup. I'm sure we're going to see some new names pop up here in that top six, and maybe find some new stars in the classic physique division, because that's a really deep lineup, over 30 guys. And to be honest with you guys, my pick to win this weekend is going to be Juan Morel. He's coming off that Arnold Classic Brazil win. He posted this update picture on Instagram, again, hitting the vacuum pose at 5 days out from the 2019 New York Pro. And I think Juan Morel, I think this is going to be his year. I think he's looking better than he's ever looked. He's looking sharper than he's looked in a very long time. He's looking very complete. I think the vacuum pose actually looks tremendous on a physique like his, because he's got a tremendous amount of size, but he still has always really maintained that really small waist. And I think adding the vacuum pose to that small waist and to that V-taper really is a nice addition to his physique. And I think it really brings out his strong points in having that small waist. So I think really at this point, Juan Morel has to be the favorite to win here. Probably Akeem Williams or Justin Luis Rodriguez coming in a close second or third. But overall, I think the New York Pro is going to be a fantastic show. I always enjoy seeing the results. And that about wraps it up for the video today, guys. Again, I apologize for taking a couple days off. This past weekend was my birthday. I got kind of busy. But I'm back now, and we're going to be back to daily uploads as always. So please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Nick Strength and Power. signing out. I will see you guys tomorrow.